dating stories. Story number 1. Just for some background info, I'm an 18-year-old male, currently living in New York. I'm 6'4" and buff, and have always been the center of ridicule and teasing from a young age due to my size. Just for some context, I stopped growing in the 9th grade, 4 years ago. I was already done with puberty and had a full-on beard and was adult-like. I took advantage of this sometimes too much. This story takes place when I was in the 10th grade. I was lonely after a breakup with my then 7-month relationship. I was looking for a one-night stand, so I turned to Tinder. I set up a fake profile with my real picture and waited. There was this gorgeous girl who I matched with. This girl was too good to be true, which gave me the first red flag, yet I went along with it anyway. We exchanged innocent messages and planned to meet at her place the next day at around 9 p.m. I wasn't as excited as you would think, because I had some doubts on this girl. I didn't know if she was real, and as far as Tinder goes, you really never know what you're getting into. So 9 p.m. rolled around, and I got ready to go to her place. I was mentally preparing myself if anything crazy was gonna go down. Before I left, I texted my dad saying I was going to a friend's house, and then I left. I asked my good friend Isaac, who was 6 years older than me, to drive me since he had a car. He warned me to be cautious as I was. Long story short, he drove me to her apartment and I rang the doorbell. I heard light footsteps behind the door and a high-pitched voice saying, "Be right there." That's when I texted my friend, telling him everything is fine and that he should leave. Boy, was I wrong. The door opened to the girl in the picture. I immediately felt excited, which didn't last for long. On my Tinder account, I wrote that I was 24, when really, I was only 15. Her not knowing this, swiftly asked if I wanted a drink. I said I didn't want anything, which visibly made her facial expression turn from happy to really angry. I realized that maybe I was going to be drugged, and I was not about to take a chance, so I asked to go to the bathroom. She then out of the blue said, "Sure," happily. Again, her weird response confirmed my theory in my head. I went to the bathroom and quickly texted my friend to come back and pick me up. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure dressed in all black, standing in the shower, trying to hide behind the curtain. I figured he saw me looking, and not even 2 seconds later, he lunged at me. I was scared, even though I was massively taller than this man. He tried pushing me to the floor, yet to no avail. I overpowered him too vastly. I grabbed him by the shirt and looked him in the eye. He was around 5'10", sorta big, mid-30s, bald, and looked to be of Russian descent. I pushed him on the floor and cursed him out. He spit at me, which is when I punched him in the face. There I was, a 15-year-old kid in a bathroom with a knocked out man. I panicked, but I kept my cool and took out my phone, taking photos of the man. Then, my friend texted me and told me he was outside of the building waiting for me. By the time that girl opened the door to the bathroom, she started to scream. I pushed her with all of my power and sprinted the hell out of that apartment. When I got back to my friend's car, I frantically explained to him what had happened. I only then realized I could have been drugged, killed, or even worse. I obviously took screenshots of her profile and the messages between us. Even though I had all the proof in the world to lock these people up, I didn't, because I was scared of my parents. Moral of the story: be very cautious when you're dating online, because you never know whose place you're truly going to, and if that person really is a person. Story number 2. I am a single Christian woman in my 20s, and and since I don't have many friends in my local church, I decided to sign up to a website where I could make friends online. Some of the site members also used it for the purpose of dating, which was okay with me as I was open to possibilities. Soon, I met a guy there who seemed nice, and we also had common interests. After a few months of friendship, we began to Skype since we lived far from each other, so we couldn't meet in person. We began chatting, and he seemed okay, but every now and then he would pause, go quiet, and just stare into the webcam. When I told him it was creepy and asked him why he was doing it, he replied that he enjoyed sharing the silence. I wasn't sure if it was normal, and since around the same time I was busy dating someone else, I avoided the guy for several months. However, when I broke up with my ex, I was feeling lonely and decided I wouldn't mind chatting to a friend to take my mind off things. The guy happened to be the only person available. We ended up chatting every couple of days for about 2 weeks, and I even started to get used to the uncomfortable silence and staring, which is when things turned weirder for the worse. During our conversations, I found out this guy was in his 30s and still a virgin, which was okay, but to me, it made things a whole lot weirder. We both agreed that we believed in sex only after marriage, so it came to me as a surprise when one day he confessed he had a fetish for girls in school uniforms. He asked me if I could send an erotic picture with a very short miniskirt because he wanted to see me wearing it. I said no because I didn't know what he'd do with the photos. Another time, he showed up in his bed on the webcam, only wearing his underwear, and then began to ask me more dirty questions. I just laughed and made a few jokes, and then tried to change the subject. However, he was not very responsive to conversation anymore, instead preferring to stare at his screen into the webcam, grinning. I didn't want to see what he was doing, so I made an excuse and I left. I should have completely stopped chatting to him after that, but the next day and the day after, he repeatedly texted me, wanting to go on webcam again. Since I was bored and lonely, I asked him to promise me he wouldn't be doing dirty things, and he agreed. For a couple of days, we managed to carry on chatting, but soon after, he did it again, and this time, it was much, much worse. First, he asked me to do things that I didn't want to do, and send him a recording of it all. I refused, explaining to him that in case my computer ever got hacked, I don't want anything to be anywhere on the internet. "Oh, but you don't have to make a video. I just want to listen to the noises you make," he replied. Again, I refused, saying that it made me uncomfortable, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. He took off everything, and then he started looking at me, grinning at me with a big, creepy smile. I told him I had to go and terminated the video call. That same evening, I sent him a long message explaining why I think we aren't compatible and said that I found him disrespectful and wanted to stop seeing him. He responded saying that I'm stuck in the past, only thinking about my ex who used me, even though the guy had no idea what went on between me and my ex. I got angry at that and told him not to speak to me about it again. I went on to think why I even continued to talk to him in the first place again, and from there on out, I decided to completely cut him off. There was no reason for me to take the risk, for me to take the chance of him doing something and potentially it affecting me in a very negative manner. What I found scary was that he knew about my past relationship and he started to get progressively worse and angrier. But no matter what he wanted from me, all I know is that he took my friendliness and my kindness as weakness, and that I'll never go back on webcams again.